Yes, we can see your slides, Prof.
Oh, great. Thank you very much, Saka. I will try and make the presentation shorter than the introduction. Monkeypox disease, should we expect another global epidemic? Without wasting your time, the ready and simple answer is yes. And I'm going to tell you why right now. Oh, I think I can't get my, sorry. I'm trying to get my slides moving. Okay. Yeah, okay. Now, I just want to look back into history and see what has happened. Lassa Fever in 1969 to date, monkeypox right now. We can go back to 1958, but for Nigeria, we're looking at 1970 to date. Ebola since 1976 to date, SARS-CoV-2 from 2019 up to date, and we don't know what the next diseases is coming. Each of these have been things that happened to us before. We have been met at different levels of preparedness. And as I'm going to elucidate, we should have learned a lot of lessons from all these ones, but each time that thing is over, we forget the lesson. We quickly forget about it. There's enough reason for what we have seen from all the diseases I listed for us to do something much better, something simple, something basic that would have made us prepared for future. But no, we will not do that. You see a lot of that. We are continuously returning to abandoned foundation and basics. I had Dr. Aditifa talking about the need to build surveillance and all that and all this. These are things we've been talking from years immemorial. You remember when COVID came, we were told Nigeria had only 2 laboratories functioning. And this was the country that had been having Lassa since 1969. How can you be having only 2 laboratories that can do diagnosis of COVID, for example, in 2019? And that's almost 50, 60 years later. Now, what happened? But then if you look at the current situation of the labs that we have built up in Nigeria, which number about 140 or so, check the NCDC website, you find that half of these laboratories are either no longer reporting or testing and not reporting or not doing anything. So I give COVID another 3-4 years, by which time Nigeria will return again to those 2 laboratories that we had at the beginning of COVID, which make it possible for us to only have 2 laboratories. So I'm saying we're not learning from our past. We're not sustaining what we have. We're abandoning what we already built up and getting ourselves totally unprepared for the next epidemic. We're waiting for external assistance for basic activities. Again, I can tell you way back in 1978, when we had 1 case of monkeypox in this country, attempts were made. We looked for funding to work with a group of people. We know that, we call it monkeypox. We know it's not monkeys, it's monkeys affected like any of us. The probably solution reservoir will either be rodents in the fields, squirrels, and all those things. And we began a kind of study, local study, to look at finding out the source of this problem. Without finding the source, all of us are running around blindly and like deaf people. And that's what is happening to us right now. Those are the basic research we should have put our fundings on. Looking at, the rodents are not in Europe, the rodents are with us around our corner. We are supposed to go after those rodents, find fund for them to be able to detect the source of this virus. But we will not, because we're waiting for external assistance to do those basic activities for us. We are begging for equity. You can't beg for equity. You have to fight for equity. Good example, COVID vaccine. Africa keeps begging Europe, through COVAX, through that one, we need vaccine, please give us vaccine. And then they gave us the vaccine, we can't even use it. That's number 1. India, Pakistan, India, Singapore, well, come out under colonial rules like each of us. India is not begging for vaccine. India is making vaccine for people to use. That's how you fight equity, not by pleading and kneeling down on your feet and begging people to give you where you did not put any resources into. All of the countries that are making vaccines in the world have put their resources into it. They have invested in it. What they're getting is what we call return on investment. In our own case, we are getting returns on indiscipline. And therefore, we become beggars to the entire world because we refuse to put our money in those basic issues. We are focusing on name calling instead of case finding. You remember when HIV came, they came up with the story that it was an African problem. For 3-4 years, we fought against that name until all of our people got infected with HIV. Instead of focusing on the right thing, looking at the situation of people, we are looking at the stigma of name calling. We have begun the same story. Now we're talking of West African clade, East African clade. What difference does it make whether clade or no clade? if your people are getting the disease, if you are not focusing on getting that infection out of your people. That's the first thing. So global food shooting, of course, it's not an African problem alone. The other people in the world think they are safe, but they're only as safe as we stop going there. The epidemic, probably what we're having with COVID, monkeypox right now, did not already, maybe the first or two cases that came from Nigeria, according to information in 2017, 2019, we've been checking it out there before. That's what probably went underground in Europe, and then got escalated by the activities of people in Canary Island and the Spanish flu, and then become now it's popping up in different parts of Europe. I know how everybody trying to make sure that we don't do any name calling or stigmatizing, but if that is the source of the problem, we must address it. And secondly, look at the world is looking at self-interest. We're moving from self-interest. There's nothing wrong with self-interest. We're moving from self-interest to interest in self. There are two different things. And that's where the problem is. The Europe that had the vaccine, and all all that happened was that we that did not have the vaccine, we generated the variants that nullified all the vaccination they've done. So we need to work together. But then each must contribute. I think that's the message I want to do. So what should we do? We must, Dr. Tifa has said it, we must implement the One Health concept. The situation with diseases is not a human thing alone. The animals are involved, environments are involved, our activities are involved, even the pathogens themselves are also adapting and changing. So we must have this One Health concept in which everybody must come into it. Communication to the people. This is our part of the situation. Awareness. Do you know the only time we actually get aware about problems in Nigeria is only when one case is exported and Europe or somebody tells us, and then we have this long story in Nigeria. Oh yeah, we've had it before. It's in our records, in our archives. Who looks at the archives of the government? Can we not get ourselves working together with the communication? Again, Identify has said it, about awareness to the people, about the awareness to the community. The awareness of the community is not going to come from the archives of the NCDC file. It's going to come from NCDC files working together with the newspaper, the media people, and getting that information on the TV and on the radio. Instead of our radios and TVs telling us on a daily basis every day about how many times our president went to the toilet, we should have more information about what is affecting the life of the people. So we must contribute as a group instead of consuming always. We must have something to contribute to the world, not a consumer nation, which is what we have been. We contribute our raw materials and we end up getting raw deals. We contribute nothing, we end up on our knees begging everybody to give us something. And when we are giving, we can't even make use of it. See what has happened with the COVID situation that is going on. The so-called hub and spoke that the world came up with is all to me a global great right. We've shouted so much, cried so much about inequity. They say, okay, come and make vaccine. Then they chose 6 of us to make vaccine. Vaccines for a disease we don't know what the end is going to be. We have measles, we have yellow fever, we have this one. We're not making vaccines for this one. We're making vaccines for COVID. The vaccines that you have in your country, you're not even making use of it. The company in South Africa that is making the vaccine has now come around and said, we're not even ordering the vaccine. And now we're begging the world to come and buy the vaccine from the one we're making in Africa so that it can donate it back to us. Are we beginning to see things that are happening? We continue to shout on the wrong thing instead of focusing on what we need to do, as I said. We must put our money where the mouth is. Our mouth now, unfortunately, is in the political campaigns, not in the health of the people. And that's where all the money of Nigeria is going. 100 million naira for funds, and your schools are closed, and your universities are down. We must replace all the priorities with consider where the defined priorities so that we can begin to do the right thing. Again, we need to implement the One Health concept and come together. So is there going to be another epidemic? Yes, there will be. And they will come because one, we're not prepared. People are not changing their attitude. We continue to do those things that made it possible for the other epidemics to come up. And until we change all those ones, epidemics will come. But having said that, we can prepare for the coming epidemics. We can ameliorate the amount of epidemic. We can limit the effect of the epidemic by our preparedness, putting our money into surveillance, active surveillance, comprehensive surveillance, not surveillance at federal level, not surveillance at state level, surveillance at the community level. And that's where the cases are occurring. And that's where it comes into. So colleagues, the epidemics will come. but we can ameliorate, we can prepare, we can make sure that what comes next is not as severe as what we have had. Quickly on the One Health, I mean, you've talked about that already, is multi-sectorial, it is transdisciplinary, and it involves people, it involves animals, it involves our environment. These are all factors we need to do. And the human and animal health are affected by environment. Well, you can see all those pictures, the way people move around, the way we relate to each other. That's the way. We are not, human beings are not isolated in the environment. So if we don't, because of all this, there's the reemergence of endemic disease or emergence of new ones. Again, you can see the kind of way people relate in those pictures on the right. And how can we not end up with the diseases being transmitted from one another? Millions of people have been coming, with a population are not under control. We're moving in different directions of the world. We're invading the forests and getting ourselves more in contact with the different animals. And so the epidemics will come. That's just a thing to show you what that, the health for all. And when we mean health for all, we mean health for humans, health for animals, health for the environment. And that's what is going to limit the amount of this thing. So to achieve this will require everybody, stakeholders, to, in the service delivery, in research, in development, at the national level, at the international level, and the regulatory authorities, all of us at different levels must be involved in what this is. The advantage of it is that we pool all the resources we have, all the talent we have to get the best out of that one. And so the stakeholders, I've mentioned some of them. These are the government, the universities, federal and state governments, bilateral and regional organizations, private sector, regulatory authorities, and other centers of excellence that we have. And communities like the GET community like this would be a public forum type of thing that provides all this information for the public to make good use of. Again, I just look at that. We have needs for centers of excellence. So finally, we need to contribute instead of always consuming. These are just final comments that I need to make. We need to contribute to all the things that are going on in the world, not just being consumers alone. Again, we need to put our money where our mouth is. We must replace our misplaced priority from consistency projects to community-oriented and benefiting projects. We must upgrade our political will, which is just vapor. They promise us everything. Political will means how we do this, how we do that, and of course they end up doing nothing. We must move from that to political commitment, which is the solid concrete for which I prevent us from this. So preventing and controlling or limiting the next global epidemic starts not from Geneva, it does not start from New York or London. It starts from my mother's village, with assistance and guidance from an awareness by my local government, my state government, my federal government, and the solution starts from within. Thank you very much.